Sometimes we have to leave the familiar places in our lives and go out into the world in order to come home again and see the place and people with a fresh, new perspective. When most folks think of Scotland though, they'll think of its major cities like Edinburgh or Glasgow, or they'll imagine some fictional village hidden away in the Highlands of Scotland, like those they've seen in the movies. The vast majority of Scotland though is a network of small rural towns across a vast open countryside. So let's begin our journey somewhere more familiar to most, in Edinburgh, the capital city of Scotland. From there we will journey to Perth, a regional city in central Scotland on the banks of the River Tay, a historic county town for all of Perthshire. From there we will then journey to our destination, the beautiful rolling green hills of Blairgowrie, a gateway to the great Cairngorm Mountains along the River Erict. This is the Blairgowrie series. In this first episode, we will explore a medieval castle straight from a fairy tale. Then we will discover the story of a historic hostel. We will also enjoy a traditional Scottish breakfast, and we will learn how Edinburgh's biggest festival was started. Then we'll explore the city's famous Prince's Street Gardens, and finally we will explore Holyrood Park, witnessing its breathtaking scenery. The Scottish landscape is overwhelmingly rural and is made up of major national and regional parks. Scotland shares marvellous scenery, rich heritage, eye-opening history and wonderful culture. Its main vibrant cities is the industrial Glasgow and the medieval Edinburgh. I'm Kyle Wilson, and in today's episode we'll begin our journey in the heart of Edinburgh, at the castle. The birthplace of this city from over 1,000 years ago, this famous symbol of Edinburgh sits boldly on a rock high above the city. While the castle has been a fort and a royal residence since the 11th century, most of its buildings today are from its more recent use as a military garrison. Crowds gather as traditionally each day at 1 o'clock the big gun is fired, giving the ships in the port something to set their clocks by. The admission also comes with a fine guided tour. As you leave the castle, turn around and look up. Remember two 14th century champions of Scottish liberty, King Robert the Bruce and William Wallace, aka Braveheart. Wallace rallied the whole of Scotland, fighting long and hard against English domination. He was executed in London, hung, drawn and quartered, with parts of his body paraded across all of England. Robert the Bruce beat the English at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. It was the last great Scottish victory. Bruce and Wallace still defend the spirit of Scotland. The Latin inscription declares more or less, "What you do to us, we would do to you." The Royal Mile, which leads from the castle and ends at Holyrood Park, is one of Europe's finest walks. As you walk downhill, take advantage of the many side streets branching off from the main stretch. Johnston Terrace, the first side street to greet us after the castle, is one of Edinburgh's most scenic streets. Snap a few Instagram photos of the Gothic cathedral and enjoy the selection of Scottish, European and world foods on offer. If you're feeling cold, you can sample the vast array of woolly accessories too. Johnston Terrace is a street that runs quite far up actually, and it's full of charming cafes, delicious restaurants, a huge cathedral called the Hub, which is a performance space and a cafe. And also behind me, we've also got accommodation, and it's called Castle Rock Hostel. Once the residence of school children in the 18th century, its exterior is made up of dark sandstone and is set in volcanic scenery overlooked by the castle. This historic 200-year-old boarding school turned medieval hostel has been given the full Fox Castle treatment. The walls are painted in medieval breeze block style with pointed arches, heraldic shields and suits of armour stationed on the stairs. Admire the vast refectory-style dining room dominated by high Victorian windows, and feel like the king or queen by taking a seat at the longest table. We caught up with the hostel manager to find out a little bit more about their story.
Well, I'm Jamie and I'm from Canada and I manage the hostel. Originally this building was a school and it's attached to the church next door. Fast forward a few years, 1997 it became Castle Rock Hostel. It's been a hostel for about 22 years. I think travellers should come to Scotland in general and specifically to Castle Rock because we have created this beautiful kind of community that has lasted over the years, and it's a bit hard to explain until you're staying here and getting involved, but we've got space for everyone all the time. Yeah, we want everyone to experience it with us.
Edinburgh has plenty of hostels, but if you're looking for one with unique character and a view to match, then you'll come right here to Castle Rock. As we leave the hostel, we start our walk downhill along the Royal Mile, passing little lanes called closes. These closes connect with the Royal Mile via a tunnel-like system and are often extremely narrow. Old 17th century Edinburgh was so limited that new buildings had to be built tall and narrow, resulting in congestion, filth and bad smells. Its most wretched couldn't even afford candles. It said they knew each other not by how they looked, but by how they smelled. Today, this vibrant and colourful Royal Mile is tourists' Edinburgh. A dense tangle of historic buildings, charming cafes, and cultural clichés on sale. Speaking of cafes, we popped into one for a traditional Scottish breakfast. The Edinburgh Larder Cafe along the Royal Mile on Blackfriars Street. This warm and friendly place specialises in serving locally sourced Scottish food. So I'm inside the larder and got breakfast. I got porridge, probably say it there. Got porridge and strawberries with some honey. It's really good. It's really good. Nothing better than a good Scottish breakfast to start off your day. An early morning breakfast is always a good idea, especially in Edinburgh during the month of August. It's right here that Edinburgh has its biggest festival, the Fringe Festival, on the Royal Mile. We caught up with a regular performer to get a quick glimpse of what the festival is like.
I love it because it's unique. There's nowhere else like it.
Yeah.
And people can just be themselves here. There's the amount of people that are just here just for tourism and fun, and I love performing here as well. And I'm an actor. We're in a show about a suffragette.
The Fringe Festival began by a group of local artists who sought out alternative methods of showcasing their work to the general public in 1947. The artists decided to take advantage of the city streets and the large crowds already in attendance for various other events in order to save spending large sums of money renting large venues. Edinburgh has two distinct towns, its medieval Old Town and 18th century New Town. It's all split by Princes Street Gardens. Just a short stroll from the Royal Mile, you'll find the tranquil gardens of Princes Street. Here, you can admire more stunning architecture, the Scott Monument. This Victorian Gothic monument is dedicated to Sir Walter Scott, a prolific writer whose words inspired many. It's the second largest monument to a writer in the world. This garden was once nothing more than a huge freshwater lake until it was drained of its water to make way for the construction of Edinburgh's New Town in the 17th century. Today, locals and visitors enjoy relaxing in the gardens. If you're more adventurous though, why not try out the geocaching app? It's a local treasure hunt carried out in towns, villages and cities worldwide. Players hide containers full of stories for others to discover. It's been known for helping people to see their usual urban surroundings in a whole new light. So we discovered the story of Wojtek the bear, who was orphaned and adopted by Polish soldiers who escaped the Nazi occupation in their country some number of years ago. The bear was given his own paycheck, serial number and rank, and was drafted into the army in order for the Polish soldiers to keep him. Sculptured in 2015 by Alan Harriott, this piece was inspired by the battle and story that went on all those years ago. Princes Street Gardens is only a short distance away from the Royal Mile's end. You'll be greeted with the Queen's Gallery and Scotland's Parliament buildings. Look around and you'll notice 640 acres of rolling green hills, perfect for hikers. Holyrood Park's abundance of flora, geology and history makes this place a hit with locals and visitors. Within the park, you'll come across St Anthony's Chapel, a 15th century medieval ruin. The chapel overlooks Duddingston Loch, which is a prime spot to watch the birdlife. The park is most famous for its volcanic summit, Arthur's Seat. Hiking to the top will take 40 to 60 minutes of steep climbing and will reward those who venture here with breathtaking panoramic views. I hope you've enjoyed the journey through Edinburgh. This medieval city has a great story and a knack for telling it. In the next episode of the Blairgowrie series, we'll be travelling north to Perth. Once the ancient capital city, we'll explore this regional place which sits on the banks of the River Tay. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Wilson. Until next time, the world is at your feet.